Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, where we unlock the secrets to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to episode 48 of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by ImpactFuel.org. My name is Josh Weesey. I'm your host, and I'm here to guide you through the jungle of motorsports sponsorship. To help me with that today, we have Thomas Affeldt of Sledders are Us. Now, before we get into the interview with Thomas, there's a few things I want to cover with you. So first off is ratings and reviews. I would be very appreciative if you went over to iTunes and left us a rating or a review. I won't tell you what to say in that rating or review, but just know it's very important to me to get that feedback. Another thing that's really important is subscribing, because I don't want you to miss any upcoming guests. First one, coming up next, Matt Allred of Garage Built Racing. So this is a little bit different segment for the podcast. Whole new audience, whole new guest, great advice. After that, we have a huge guest returning for our 50th episode, and I've been waiting to announce it, Jim Beaver. So Jim Beaver 2.0 is coming for episode 50, and we basically take our first episode and just build on those concepts. So we get deeper, we get into a little bit more advanced topics. So make sure you tune in to that episode. That's going to be releasing on November 21st of 2017. Now, beyond that, we have Skidoo factory rider Jeremy Mercier, and also our first NHRA drag racer, Megan Meyer. So they're coming on episode 51 and 52, respectively. To get some insider access into our upcoming guests and also to really have a forum to ask questions around sponsorship, go ahead and check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. Request to join. I review all those requests, and if you're involved in motorsports or power sports, I'm most likely going to approve that request. Now, if you do have questions or specific guest recommendations, you can go ahead and shoot me an email directly, podcast@impactfuel.org. Now, this episode is sponsored by three awesome companies. The first is Bold Racing and Suspension. They're a family race team that does custom suspension. The next is SolderWeld. They produce game-changing metal bonding technology products. And the last, someone you've become very familiar with, is TopThePodium.com. They are experts in motorsports sponsorship. Now, the structure of this podcast, it's like previous ones. It's set up like a race. We begin with the qualifier, which is a basic introduction. In Heat 1, we'll dive into Thomas's background. And then in Heat 2, we'll get some specific tactics around sponsorship. And then we'll dive into the main event, discuss mindset, and then we'll end at the finish line. We'll get closing comments, and we'll find out how to get a hold of Thomas. Without further ado, let's hop in. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. And today's featured guest is Thomas Affeldt of Sledders are Us. And together, we're going to guide you through the complexities of motorsport sponsorship. So, Thomas, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, guys. I'm Thomas from Sledders are Us. If you guys don't know me, I started on a little 120 Polaris snowmobile back in '01.
Nice.
My dad bought that for me for Christmas. Literally every winter and summer, I'd go out and ride right after school. So that's all I'd do for 4 or 5 hours out of the day when I'm not playing sports.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I just used to ride on that little 120 all day, every day. It was a blast. I remember towing my little brother. I got a little brother with special needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to tow him around in that and a little bit of a sled when it was snowing because he couldn't ride on the back. So that's kind of where I got all into it. And then my dad started taking me on some more trips for snowmobiling on a 2-up. And then I really started getting into it in 13 once I totaled my 96 440. So that's pretty sure how I get into some newer vehicles in the sledding industry.
Yeah, definitely. So one comment that I have is these, the 120s, whether it's a Polaris or an Arctic Cat or Skidoo or even the older Kitty Cats, I don't know what those were, but 60s or something like that. But these things do not lose value. Like brand new, they're like $2,000 or I don't know what it is, but they're like $2,000. And then 20 years old, they're like $2,000. Like, what in the world is going on? I've had sleds that depreciated like thousands and thousands of dollars over the years, and they're the same age as these 120s, and they're worth less. Like, why is a 600 Arctic Cat, like a 2,600 Arctic Cat, worth less than a 120 Arctic Cat from 2000? I don't get it.
It's all about the demand. Little kids are always getting into it, and they're somewhat cheap. I mean, I sold my 01 in 2016 for $1,500, and we bought it for $2,000, and it was beat to crap. Nothing was in excellent shape. The track was missing lugs from me tearing it up and going on a whole bunch of rocks and all that kind of stuff. But literally, it's just all the demand. All these adults, even older kids, buy 120s for their younger brothers or sisters, and they just want to get them into the sport, and that's the easiest way to do it because it's safe and reliable. I mean, the only thing that broke on mine was the throttle spring.
Oh, right.
It.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's cool, man. It's just like I got 2 little kids of my own, and I'm keeping an eye out for these sleds. I'm just thinking one day the price is going to go down. I was like, it's not. I've been following these things for years, and they never get cheaper. I don't understand what it is.
No, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I was surprised that I did a Craigslist value, and they're selling for same price as what the brand new ones are going for, and it's just like, well, almost everybody should buy a brand new one. So I'm like, all right, I'll put this for like $500 lower.
Yep.
Get somebody a good deal on it, considering it's not in the greatest shape.
Right. Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's pretty crazy how that kind of works.
Yeah, definitely. So that's cool, man. So you rode up, you grew up riding sleds and just pounding out the miles and having a good time, and you had what you said, a 440 for a little while. I mean, maybe take us from that 440 to today. What were some of maybe the other sleds that you had, and maybe what you're riding today as well?
Well, with that 440, I'll tell you the day I wrecked it. I was going about 30 miles an hour across a lake, and it was in a blizzard, so I could see it probably 30 feet in front of me max. So I was going 30 miles an hour. I hit an ice heave, probably jumped 10, 12 feet across, and then I hit another ice heave right on top of that one.
Oh.
So it kind of tipped up my right ski, and it literally just made me roll and roll and roll. So I rolled for a good 40 feet.
Right.
Ended up with I think it was a sprained ankle, and then I had a bruised wrist, and then I think I had a concussion. I can't even remember. Some in that lines. But anyway, after that, I just kept riding it because I was scared to. Well, it was totaled, but I could able to get it go. My buddy had to use a tow strap to steer me pretty much, but it ran, so I was using the throttle, and he was towing me all around, and I didn't want to go back home to get yelled at by my dad. So that was pretty interesting. And then I finally got home, and I was like, Dad, don't yell at me, but I kind of broke the snowmobile. And he was like, oh crap, what'd you do?
Yeah. So
I told him, and then he's like, well, let's look at a new one for you.
Oh, there you go.
So he bought me a 2013 600 Switchback 136. We got a good deal on it because that was literally in March when we bought it. And that's when it was totaled. So bought it like next weekend. So that was good. And then got it back. We all went out for a family ride with me and my mom and dad. They went out on their little touring, and I took the new sled. And I just got off this thing with a big, huge smile on my face, and I'm like, Dad, you gotta hop on this thing.
Yeah.
So he hops on it, and he's all like, this thing's like, yeah, you're right, I'm gonna have to get one of these. Anyway, he didn't get one. He kind of waited.
Yeah.
Then 3 years later, I got a 2016 Adventure.
Okay.
I was gonna get the 2017 Assault when it came out. But Polaris isn't making a 2-up seat for it, so I can't take my brothers for rides.
Right.
Yeah, so I gotta use that Adventure 2-up seat somehow.
Yep.
So,
oh, that's good, man.
I'm now in that, and it's got a Bikeman Stage 3 kit on it.
That's awesome.
Curved skis, Sports Utica. They got a 45-inch stance on it. I got some clutch kit in there, and then getting it all dialed in for the new wrap that's going to be put on it soon.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Who's doing your wrap?
M7 Designs.
Oh, okay. Nice. Good
Yeah,
deal.
they're a pretty new company. They got some great stuff. I was checking them out on Instagram. That's how I actually got into contact with the owner.
Mm-hmm.
They got their finishes on their wraps. I think they're running like a 22 mil thickness,
Yeah.
thicker than Arctic FX.
Yeah.
And that's one of the major companies that everybody goes to.
Right.
But,
Oh, good
so
deal,
they got like chrome, super chromes, metallic finishes, matte finishes, and you can have multiple finishes on the one wrap. So I'm coming up with a couple of goodies for my sled that'll be coming out soon.
Nice. I'll be looking forward to that one, man. I love the way the industry's trended now towards, customization and wrapping and things like that. I mean, I'm thinking back 10 years or so, and you could maybe get some custom stickers and stuff like that, and it just was not nearly what it is today. You can make these sleds look just wild today, which is really fun.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. It's all just designing. Everybody finally figured out that people are going to pay for that.
Right.
So that's pretty much where it's gone to now.
Certainly. Well, that's cool, man. So we got to hear a little bit about how you kind of got into motorsports and snowmobiling specifically. What about with Sledders R Us though? I mean, what was your inspiration behind that, and kind of when did you get started with it?
I started it right around December,
Yep.
actually. So it's not even a year old, but
Yep.
my inspiration was pretty much everybody's brand bashing and complaining and talking crap to one another about which one's better for watercross, snowcross, doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, why are we complaining and talking crap to each other when we should be bringing everybody together? Snowmobiling it's a dying sport.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much left in it. It's just keeps on going down and down because the winters just keep getting worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the snowbike industry even picking up, sales are even going down on snowmobiles even more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a give and take on that. But basically, Sledders R Us is I just want everybody to unite together. I mean, we're all a family. We all ride together. Doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We all experience the same thing. We all like twisting our thumb.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's all my inspiration was behind Sledders R Us. There wasn't really anything to it. It's just why not bring everybody together instead of tear everybody apart?
Man, I love that. That's something that I know riding with some different groups of people. I mean, you get on a trail or in a bar or, back at the cabin and everybody's ripping on everybody else's sled. And I've always said, like, man, they all break. And when they do, I want my friends there to help me fix it and get me back to the right place, because every brand has its issues. Everything breaks at some point. Every machine is going to have some issue, and you do not want to be that person stranded without any friends because you made fun of their sled and they left you on the trail. But
oh yeah, it's just kind of out of mutual respect for everybody.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually you and I talked a little bit about this before, but I'm in the pursuit of a new sled right now, and I have gone back and forth on every single brand, like multiple models, because they're all awesome. Like every single one I look at has these great traits to it. I mean, like Arctic Cat, they've got the awesome turbos, the Yamaha shared motor, and Yamaha's got this awesome sled with the shared chassis with Arctic Cat, and they both look awesome. And then these Skidoo 850s are out there, just they're beautiful and they're fast and they're light and they're well built. And then the Polaris, extremely light, well balanced, again reliable. It's just like, and they all look great. I mean, there was a period, I think, where the snowmobile industry was struggling with their sleds. I mean, there was a period where they looked rough. I just say that. But nowadays they look great, man. I mean, they all look awesome. So I've never put this much thought into a snowmobile in my whole life, and I've gone through, I think, like I said, every single model and debated it and made decision matrices, and I still don't have my mind made up.
I thought we talked about this.
I know.
I thought you had made the decision.
I did until the next day, and then I had to change it up. Yeah, I was totally sold on the 800 Switchback Pro S, and then I started looking at some of the Arctic Cat turbos, and I was like, man, these are pretty cool, and I like going fast, and I mean they're all fast too, but it's crazy. So I've bounced back and forth to the Arctic Cat turbo, and I was like, well, maybe I should do a Skidoo 850, because those are pretty awesome, and so right now I'm still a little undecided, but I did come across some pretty good deals on like these these like basically brand new but kind of used sleds, and man, there's just some good deals out there. So I'm back into the Arctic Cat mode right now. We'll see if that lasts through the night.
With the Sidewinder.
It's I've looked at I've got a couple. I've got a couple picked out. It's basically the same motor, different clutching, and a little bit different, fuel maps and stuff like that. But basically a Sidewinder engine. But then I also found some like even older model year ones that have like just a couple miles on, like no miles. But that's the Suzuki motor, which is the 1100 turbo, and I don't know, man. Everything is so cool. I want it all.
Yeah, it's if you had all the money, you could buy every one and just have every one and not have this problem type of thing.
Yeah, I think ideally I'd have a Sidewinder and then like an Assault, the Switchback Assault, and then probably like a Rush.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. Like, I'd love to have all three of those, or maybe even a Renegade. I don't know, throw one of those in there too, but yeah, it's good stuff. But hey, enough about me, man. So let's get back into the Sledders R Us thing. You started this in December 2016, and you started building the following pretty quickly. So, I mean, what are you at today? Today, for people listening, it's October 11th of 2017.
I'm at 26,000 followers on the button.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, considering that's been what 11 months ish. It's pretty significant to create that much of a following in that short amount of time. And I actually want to talk a lot about that in Heat 2, and that's where we talk a lot about sponsorship tactics and strategies. So I'm actually going to take just a quick minute, though, and thank the sponsors for our podcast. I am constantly asking the guests of this podcast how they attract and retain sponsors. And on almost every single occasion, somebody gives an example of a resume. A rider or a racer resume is extremely important to your overall sponsorship pitch and proposal. And it's tough to do. I mean, it's not really the easiest thing. Anybody can go through and put together a resume, so don't get me wrong there, but it's really difficult to get something that's like unique and different and stands out, and then also is something that can be put across multiple platforms. Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about next, is how topthepodium.com can actually help you build a race or rider resume that can be used on multiple platforms. I'm talking like website, PDF, something you can print off that's interactive, that looks fantastic. It looks absolutely professional. Well, that's because it's made by a professional. This is the type of thing that's going to set you apart from the crowd, and that's going to position you for a strong sponsorship proposal. So what I want you to do next is go to topthepodium.com, and if you have a question, there's a little chat icon that pops up on the side of the screen when you go to topthepodium.com, and you can go ahead and type your question right there. Jeff Vanestal, he is the owner of Top the Podium. He's going to be able to respond to you directly, so check it out. I hear it constantly from racers that a good suspension setup is absolutely critical for performance, and that's why I'm going to talk to you next about bold racing and suspension. Now, it's really critical to understand your suspension, and there's so many intricacies with the valving and the shims and all this crazy equipment that you need to actually rebuild and properly set up your suspension, that it's really important, if you're ready for that next level of performance, to partner with an awesome suspension company. Now, Bold Racing is that company. They're not only specialists with their suspension setups, but they also partner with companies that produce amazing custom components. And on top of that, they're a family race team. They actually race themselves, so they really understand the type of beating that your vehicle and your shocks can take. So what I want you to do is give them a call and just chat with them. Talk to them about suspension. Their number is 702-506-5354. If you're not ready for a phone call, go ahead and shoot them an email, bold.racing@yahoo.com. Have you ever been out on the trail or at the track or in the middle of the desert and something breaks? Well, of course you have. We've all been there. But a lot of people at that point, they reach into their trusty toolbox for the duct tape or the zip ties or wrenches to fix their machine. However, there's a feeling that you get when you realize you need more than just duct tape to fix that rock chip in your radiator. That's a horrible, horrible feeling to have. And that's why I'm going to tell you next about SolderWeld's metal bonding products, specifically alloy sol. So this product gives you a longer term fix than JB Weld, which is just going to get you back to the trailer or back to the pits. With basically the assistance of MAP gas or propane torch, you can quickly and easily repair an oil cooler, radiator, AC line, or any crack or hole in aluminum. And better yet, alloy soil flux is the only flux in industry that cleans and decontaminates the dirty and greasy surface for you. So you don't even have to worry about that part. The alloy sol rods are actually capable of a 30,000 psi fix, and they're stronger than even the parent metal, and they're built to last the lifetime of the part. So don't let a simple radiator leak leave you out of the race or broken down in the trail. Bring along some alloy sol aluminum alloy repair rod and flux from SolderWeld. All right, well, welcome back. We are now on Heat 2. Heat 2 is where we get into some of the tips, the tricks, the strategies, the tactics, all that stuff around sponsorship. So we had already kind of started diving into some of the stuff with Sledders R Us and started talking about how much strength and stuff you've built on Instagram and things like that. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that in a minute here, but first off, I want to ask you a question about, deeper into Sledders R Us, and who are some of like your key partners that you work with, and maybe some of the riders that you've been able to help out or sponsor as part of Sledders R Us?
Well, pretty much everybody who I've partnered with has all been in the sport to be in the sport. They're not in it to make money or in it to definitely become millionaires or in it for the fame. They're all just in it to ride. That's pretty much all what Sledders is all about anyway. You just want to ride and have fun. It's nothing. I mean, it gets serious at times, but it's nothing like I'm going to become mega rich from this one great idea that everybody's just going to copy me on anyway. So I mean, I've tried to become partners with quite a few guys, and it's worked out well for me and them. And I share the lots of their posts and do all that kind of stuff, and they just give me exposure back and forth, so it works out well for both of us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's kind of how we connected, right? You had offered to share some of my content for Impact Fuel, and you've been very helpful from that standpoint, and and now you're coming on this podcast, and I think this is just another example of that, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I want to understand a little bit more about what your relationship is with the riders. Like, do you help them with sponsorship? Do you help them getting gear? Do you help connect them? I mean, what are some of the things that you do for your riders?
It depends on what they're asking, but most of the riders I connect through them to see what they want from our sponsors, and then I'll send them all an email or something, so we do like a group order, so it's cheaper on them and me and our sponsors to ship on out, because the more money we save is the better, because I mean, it's all money is more gas and more trips and more everything here and there. But for all the riders who just contact me through Instagram, Facebook, text messaging, phone calls, they just ask about if they can talk to them, if I can talk to companies for them. I'm more than happy to do so. It's not guaranteed to give you the exact deal that you want, because I don't know exactly what some of the riders are going to want to get from that company. I can't I can't read their minds in that way because most of them would just tell me can you go talk to me for this person, or can you talk to this company for this person? So I mean, I'm more than happy to do that. It's more of a waste on their time than my time, because they're probably not going to be getting the best deal if they're having a third person talk to them. Because it's just like I'm a third party company talking to somebody else for a client. It kind of doesn't work so well in this industry. You're going to want to talk directly to the company, get into relations with them, build a relationship, ask where they're riding if you want to go riding together. There's not much to what I can do for them in that aspect, unless they are one of our great sponsors who already help us out in a way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept, and I don't know of too many other examples of that. I mean, the closest example I can think of is a race team where, there's some race team owner that will, basically gather sponsors for their race program, and then the racers on that team will share that sponsorship as like a joint sponsorship. And it's a little bit like that, but I don't know if there really is a definition or a recipe or another example of what you're doing right now. So I think it's really interesting, and it's definitely a different look on the the sponsorship world.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Nobody else was doing it, so I did it and made it, and now everybody's kind of copying me. So that's where it gets you. But I mean, I can't really stop them from taking my great idea and making it.
Yeah, one of the other podcasts that I listen to, it's kind of like an entrepreneurial style podcast, and they talk about the idea of competition, which is what this is, right? Other people are doing the same thing, and some people look at competition as a good thing because it validates that there's a real thing going on here. Like there's a true need or a true desire, for this type of business or this type of activity to function. So that's a good thing that there's from that standpoint. The bad thing is then you're struggling maybe for other people's attention. But the other way of looking at it, though, is kind of similar to maybe your inspiration behind Sledders R Us, is that together you're building up the industry. Like the more exposure that you can build with maybe some of your competitors, you're going to keep challenging each other to do something different or something more unique and something better, and ultimately it should provide a better experience for the snowmobile world.
Yes, exactly. It's pretty much the thing is I mean, I communicate with a whole bunch of other pages who are doing the same thing as me, but pretty much you just gotta try and keep on coming out with the next best thing, the next great idea, the next more ways to give everybody else exposure. So it's really pushing the industry, actually. I mean, a lot of people aren't on Instagram or Facebook. A lot of snowmobilers aren't, because most of them are working and doing this and that and hanging out with their real families instead of our Sledders family. But it's pretty much the same way. The more competition, the better. I mean, it pushes you more. I mean, sure, the competition sucks when everybody else is taking the credit that you did. But I mean, in a way, it's just kind of like showing, wow, I really started something here. So
right. Who are some of the businesses that you work with? Some of the companies?
I work with all our sponsors, and I even work with companies who are coming out with products who aren't even out yet, so they're pretty unknown companies. I got this one guy out in Colorado. He's working on a couple patents on a snow bike design that'll keep it running hotter. But I mean, I can't say too much about it. That's pretty much all I can say.
No,
but,
that's cool.
I mean, so that's, I mean, it's fun. It's amazing. It's great to do. I mean, I love working with a lot of companies. I also work with Bike Man Performance, Curve Industries. Then I also work with Freshies Built, which is one of our family riders. It's actually his shop.
Okay.
So he's starting that up. So he does like RK at Speedworks. You may know of as Kyle Hustis.
Oh, okay.
Or AKA Riding Snowy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely know that. Riding Snowy. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Everybody knows him by that.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Dude, he's an animal.
Yeah.
It's crazy what he can do.
Oh, that's good. That's
I
good.
just, it's pretty much, I just look up to him in that way, and the way he creates so much power in those kitties.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, very cool.
It's unreal. But I mean, I help with companies who aren't even in the sledding business. Like earlier today, I was at school at the career fair, and I was talking to this farmer for seeds about how I pretty much am marketing. I'm marketing to all my followers.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to him about that and how he can actually expand his business, even though I'm probably never going to work for him or do
Mm-hmm.
an internship for him. I'm giving him advice to which he can take, to which he probably hasn't even heard of before.
Yeah. Well, certainly. I think there's a lot that can be learned by looking at other industries and the way other people are doing things. I mean, honestly, a lot of times in this podcast, we pull in examples from from other industries, or like I just gave an example from like an entrepreneurial podcast. There's a lot of things that kind of overlap with business in general when you start looking at sponsorship.
Yes, exactly. There's a million different ways to come about it. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, one of the things that I promise we dig into further is one of your specialties, which is Instagram. So you've built a pretty strong following in a relatively short period of time on Instagram, and a lot of people on this podcast and in the industry really do get a lot of value out of Instagram. They view it as kind of like a uh, brand building social network, lots of engagement, lots of opportunities to interact with people. So I want to dig deeper into that, and specifically of some of the things that you might recommend. So I mean, first off, for riders and racers that are building an Instagram profile, what are some of the things that you would recommend either to get started, or if they are started, what are things that they can improve on?
photo content, video content. It's all about the pictures and videos on Instagram. That's why it can't get much simpler. That's all there is. And Snapchat, or like what they're doing, kind of like with Snapchat stories.
Yeah, the Insta
do the Insta
stories.
stories. Yep, exactly. Get on that. Get out there. Talk to people. Talk to companies. Use hashtags. Really key component to when building fan base
Mm-hmm.
or getting your name out there, or giving people who are also in the same industries, you giving them a follow, showing that you're interested in learning about what they're doing, chat with them, send them a message, be like, hey, that's really cool, how you doing with that, and
Mm-hmm.
talk about pretty much just getting to know everybody and getting to know what they do for a living. That's all you got to do for riders and racers. There's not much to it. It's just establishing your connections.
Mm-hmm. No, that's cool. How much time do you think you put in maybe on a daily basis to managing your Instagram and engaging with others and private messaging and all that stuff? I mean, do you know roughly how much time you spend in a day?
Oh, let me look at here. I got a setting on my phone that'll tell me my exact
Oh,
usage.
okay.
So I'll tell you that in a second.
Yeah, because I feel like I spent a long time, and I don't even have like even remotely close to the level of following that you do, and I feel like it takes up a lot of time.
Oh yeah, I'm on it constantly. Even if I've come to the point where I turn all my notifications off and just
Yeah,
hop on the app, so my phone just keep going off and off and off.
yeah, yeah.
But on a daily basis, according to my phone, I am on Instagram for about 6 to 7 hours per day.
Yep.
But that's with talk. That's not posting photos. That's
Yeah.
talking with companies, talking with riders, explaining how they can do this better, and just
Yep.
having a good conversation with anybody who's down for a chat whenever I'm just laying around. So
Yeah, man, it's incredible. I mean, that's a job, right?
yeah,
That's basically a full-time job right there. Um, and I think that it makes sense. I mean, I know we interviewed one of our sponsors, Jimmy Moore of Bold Racing. He was on episode 39, and he made a comment. He's 45 years old, and he made a comment like, "Yeah, I'm on Instagram more than my teenage kids are on Instagram," and because that's where you do get a lot of the people that respond to you or follow you or interact with you, is if you first interact with them. That's
yes,
interesting.
yep. That's exactly how it goes. Or if you're like having people sending you messages, or I got people sending me message requests because I haven't like accepted their thing yet, I'll shut off my phone for the weekend because I'll be going out on dates or hanging out with my family or girlfriend because obviously that's more important than pretty much what I'm doing for Sledders or else because family always comes first. But whenever I'm doing something like that, I'll shut it off, turn it back on a couple days later, something like this and that. That's why I don't post for a while. I'll have literally 100, 200 messages waiting for me to reply to. And then once I reply, everybody keeps on responding and wants to have a personal conversation. And it's hard to have that personal conversation when I have so many messages going on at once. So I've come to the point where I message like 4 new people each day.
Okay.
So, I mean, if people are waiting or whatever for me to talk to them or me posting even just a photo, that's the reason why. It's just because there's so many messages I get.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a certain point where you're not going to be able to keep up with all that. I mean, it's got to be close. I mean, I'm assuming that another 10,000, 20,000 followers, and you're going to be you will not be able to respond to everybody.
Yeah, nope. I mean, I won't be able to. I'm going to have to switch up my tactics on how people want to get posted or if they're just going to want to have to chat or something.
Yeah. I know I've always been impressed. You respond to my messages all the time. Like, I don't know if you've ever not responded to something that I sent you. And I feel like that's I don't know. I couldn't imagine. I know like I said, I have trouble keeping up with that stuff. I'm guessing I probably spend about maybe an hour a day on an Instagram, Facebook. I don't know. That seems way too little now. If maybe just Instagram, maybe like a half hour to an hour. But I do limited posts and things like that. But man, I'm just trying to think like if my following was basically 20,000 times more. I mean, it's just incredible, man. I don't even know. I don't even understand how you can do it, but it's really cool to hear some of the things that you do because that's fairly. It's something that it's like a recipe, honestly. You even just said something like 4 new messages a day to new people. Like that's a recipe that people can follow.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially if you're getting up there and you're getting stressed out by seeing all those messages just pop in. But the one thing I hate about the Instagram Messenger is if you respond and then you'll open up Instagram again, then you go to your messages and you'll click on somebody's like message that it's like says it sent you a new one. You can't. It doesn't tell you how many ones are new after you've clicked into it.
Oh,
so
right.
half the time I'll forget to respond to people.
Yep.
And then they're getting all frustrated at me for not responding and all that. But I mean, that's kind of the obstacle that I face is trying to respond to everybody and giving everybody a personal conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if they're sending like one-word answers or they're asking just really blunt questions, I'm going to give a more boring response because there's not much. I mean, if they're not willing to put in a effort to have a conversation, I mean, I'm not going to be willing to put in a ton more than what they're putting in. So, I mean, if anybody's going to want to have a conversation with me, if you put in the effort, I'm going to put in at least 10 times more than that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good note too. And honestly, I'm thinking of like my email. On email I can put mark as unread, and that I have that notification that I need to follow up or respond to that particular message. But yeah, with Instagram, as soon as you highlight it or open it up, it's going to show that it's not only show that it's been read, but it's going to show them that you've seen it. And if you're not able to respond at that exact point, they're going to assume that you're just never going to respond. So
Yep.
And yeah, that's interesting. I've done one thing I've tried to do, which eats up a ton of memory on my cell phone, but I do screenshots. If I see a message that I need to follow up on later, I screenshot it and I go back through at the end of the night and check my screenshots and make sure that I captured everything that I had intended to on social media for that same reason.
Yeah, I do pretty much the same thing, and that's how I remember like everything that I'm supposed to look into or like parts I'm supposed to buy, etc., etc. I mean, I literally have 356 screenshots right now on my phone, and I went through them a week ago. So,
man, that's just a whole nother scale. But it's cool, and I'm glad that you're sharing some of these tidbits of advice because these are, like I said before, these are things that people can do. They can actually emulate some of these activities and help build their social media following. So from a posting standpoint, do you know roughly how many posts you do like each day?
I've tried to keep track of that. Most of the time, I'll just kind of forget the count. But I do at least one post per day if I can, unless I'm hanging out with my family or something. But normally I try and do 3 to 4 to keep it interesting, and I'll space it out throughout the day. So if somebody gets on in the morning, or if somebody gets on at night, or say, because we got lots of followers who are from Sweden and Norway and the rest of the world around Europe and all that stuff, so they see photos at different times. So you always kind of got to space it out through different areas to get the most attraction with your photos, to which I actually help you expand yourself and get people interested in your content even more.
Yeah, that's it's such a good concept too, bringing up the time zone thing, because there's if you're looking at your Instagram and you have it linked to a Facebook page, and you have access to like things like insights, you can see what times your followers are most active. But most of the time, if you're on a smaller account, like my accounts for Impact Fuel and Sponsored Rider Club, they're smaller, and I know that the primary followers are on the West Coast, and you can tell the time slots lined up, because I'm in Michigan, so I'm Eastern time zone, and I'll post things later at night to engage the people who are getting off work and are relaxing and things at home on the West Coast. So California, Utah, Nevada, Idaho, that's where my following is at. But yeah, if you have people in Sweden, Norway, and United States, all throughout the day, different depending on the time, people are going to be at that peak, the peak time of their time zone where they're going to be active on social media.
And you kind of got to think about it in which, like, you post a photo with like in an hour of everybody's lunchtime, or when do normally everybody has a break, or I mean, half the time I try and do that, but normally I'm so busy with school and class and home, and then hanging out with my family and taking care of my brothers, to where I'll just post when I can half the time. But I try and keep it to the specific time zone, so I have it set up. I got kind of a sequence for that, but I don't really want to share that.
No, that's cool, man. You got to have some secret sauce there too. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I use I try to stay somewhat consistent with my post. And it's tough though, like you said. Sometimes you get things coming away, and you can't quite get a post out. I mean, there's a lot of scheduling tools that can help with some of that stuff too. But yeah, man, it's really interesting hearing some of those notes and stuff. Tell me a little bit more about how your strategy works with, identifying people with good content, riders with really good visuals on Instagram, and, reposting or resharing that. I mean, how is that strategy working for you, and what's some of the feedback you have on it?
Personally, it's working out well for me and the riders. All the riders they post great content, even if, some content's blurry. It's still exciting to either watch, or it's just a really cool photo that I know a lot of people are going to like, to where I'll get more likes on my content. So then they'll get more, because with the tagging feature, all I got to do is tap the little photo and then go directly to their account to see all their content. So it really adds exposure to them and me in a way. But with everybody like becoming brand ambassadors and doing this and that for companies, it's more of how you communicate with each other. It's getting your word out there. How are you as a representative for Sledders R Us? Are you good with kids? Do you like hanging out with kids? Are you a good rider? Do you brand bash? Do you constantly cuss and swear? It's really how you're set up for, like, in school and stuff. Like when kids are in high school, they're trying to like act all cool and tough and all this and that. You don't need to do that. You just need to be yourself. Be nice. If yourself isn't nice, try and be a little bit kinder. But
that's the one caveat to being yourself, is like, unless you're really mean, then be less mean, a little bit more nice.
Yep. Sprinkle it with a little bit of sugar, and then you'd be good to go. But I mean, it's really just getting exposure out there, doing riding events, clinics, all this and that, and it's all about having a good time and sharing it with everybody and trying to bring everybody together.
Yeah, certainly, man. Well, that's been a lot of good info. I actually would like to move on now to the main event because I feel like we hit a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about for sponsorship tactics and specifically Instagram and social media. So in the main event, that's where we talk a little bit about mindset, and I want to get this info from you because especially knowing a little bit more now about your vision for Sledders R Us and your family focus and some of the things you're trying to promote with your helping others grow their social media accounts, things like that. I want to know what some of your obstacles have been that you've had to overcome, because there's some mental challenges that you've probably had to get through as well. So maybe just walk us through a big obstacle that you've had to overcome in motorsports, and how'd you do that, and what should we take away?
Well, the biggest obstacle that I faced is working on my own stuff. I mean, my dad, he's not much of a mechanic. He works on the computer doing taxes for some major corporations, so he ain't too busy with fixing up stuff or getting this and done. Normally he would pay to have somebody else do it, and now I'm to where I'm like, let me do this, let me learn how to do this. The it's all about working on your own stuff pretty much. I mean, that's the biggest obstacle that I've had in my time. I mean, I had a great family rider, Josh Cook. He lives like 20 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
He literally helped me build my sled this summer.
Yeah.
And it was in his garage for like
That's
a
Jay
month.
Shui, right?
Yep. Jay Sheshwa.
Yeah, Jay
Yep.
Sheshwa.
Yep.
He is awesome. I love Josh Cook. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. He's fantastic. He's super helpful, extremely nice.
Yeah.
Really, really fun to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you seen his sled. That's exactly what his personality is. It's wild and crazy.
Yeah, he's so just to jump on the Josh Cook love train here. He sent me some photos and stuff. I can't remember, a couple months ago, and they were just phenomenal. And he's like, "Yeah, you can put them up wherever you want." I had him on the website, and I put him on social media, and it was cool, man. He's got some really really cool stuff. But all right, I'll let you get back to talking about Josh though.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much Josh, he's just a cool cat. I mean, if everybody actually sits down and gets to know him and talk to him, he's a pretty cool dude. He literally helped me build my sled for heydays. I was at crunch time, and he said he was going to help me with it because I don't even have half the tools or space, because I got like no garage space right now because we got everything in there because it's summer. So literally, I had to bring it over to his house, leave it in his shop. And right after work from Bike Man Performance, I'd go straight to his house, work on my sled for a couple hours, and then it would probably be like 12 or 1 in the morning, and we'd be sitting there just chit-chatting, talking about it, fooling around with powder coating and making some colors and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd finally have to go home and wake up at 5 in the morning, go to work, do the same thing over again. But I mean, he's just a helpful guy.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. And talking about working on your own stuff and trying to make time for that, and it's really interesting when you are trying to promote a motorsports brand on, say, social media, for example, and when you work on your own stuff, it does give you content to share as well. That's something we've talked about in this podcast before. Like, people who do work on their own stuff, they can, while they're doing that tire change or while they're putting on the new exhaust or whatever, I mean, that's a perfect opportunity for an Insta story or a Facebook Live or at least a quick video that you can post, and it gives people behind the scenes into what you're doing, and it's relevant, and it offers some interesting opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it creates more of a following in a way, actually, because half the time whenever I'm doing a story or somebody else on our family's doing a story, they're showing ways on how to do something better or how to actually get something off the sled or whatnot. Because, I mean, half the sleds we're working on, it's freaking so tight that you can't even.
Yeah.
I mean, you drop a nut and you're sitting there looking for it for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So my last sled that I had was 2007 Arctic Cat F1000, and super fast and all that stuff. But to get to like the spark plugs, which you didn't have to change that often, but there's 4 plugs on a twin 2-stroke, and I basically said if I followed a plug on a trail, we're towing it. Let's just tow it back. It's not worth changing the plugs. I'll leave it here and get a new one. Like, it's not worth the effort to change these spark plugs because it's just so tight, and like you can't, even when you take off all the panels and the cowl and everything, you still can't get to it. Either way, that's my rant. That's my rant for the day. It was a great sled. It was just, you never want to follow a plug ever.
That's pretty much with every sled though, because then you gotta make sure you got a spare in there, and then that's another story.
Yeah.
But
all right, well, yeah. So moving on though, I think that's a good obstacle, and I think it's cool how you're able to leverage it and also leverage some of your friends to help out with that, especially when your friends are Josh Cook, and he's pretty active on social media and stuff too, and he's got some pretty cool machines and things like that. So. Cool. Okay, so moving on, I got a couple other questions here, and one which I ask pretty much everybody is about inspiration. So who would you say, from your perspective, inspires you?
That's a tough one. I've always looked up to Levi LaValle, so I'm gonna have to say Mr. Levi.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty much all the LaValle crew.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always looked up to him. I started talking with Evan even last year before he even started Sledders R Us.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never met up with him. I mean, I kind of did. I bumped into him at Heydays. He didn't realize it was me from Sledders R Us.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's pretty much the Valley crew. You gotta throw in Chris Baran because it's Chris Baran.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Messner.
Yeah.
He's a pretty cool dude. I've been talking with him quite a bit, and I mean, he's actually inspired me to get some other designs out there for everybody to buy and purchase, and he's cool, man.
Awesome. Yeah, Andy was on this show. He was on episode 36. We did a joint episode with Keegan Johnson of GGB Exhaust, and man, that episode was by far the most popular one that I've ever released. And it's mostly because of Andy. He was awesome.
Oh yeah, he's a cool dude. It's great to talk to him. I mean, I can't talk to him forever because of schedules and stuff, but whenever I do get to talk to him, it's like talking to a really pretty girl for the first time, and you're just like, what just happened?
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, and I have not been able to connect with Levi LaValle, although I did connect with him on LinkedIn. And he responded to one of my messages, and it was so close that my next response was, "Want to be on the podcast?" essentially. And he hasn't responded back yet, but it's coming. I know it's coming. But no, I did have Zach Mason on the podcast, and he's races for Team LaValle, and he was fantastic. He actually lives in Michigan, near me. So, well, maybe not near me, but 3 hours away from me, which is pretty neat. So.
Yeah, well, he's relatively close, so it's pretty cool to have a star snowcross racer kind of near you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we're basically brothers at this point, but yeah, I've talked to him before, and he lives in the same state with me, which I'm pretty sure qualifies us as family at this point. But cool, yeah. And Chris Brandt, he's awesome too. I'd love to have him on the podcast as well. So, and I've made some attempts, but. We'll get there.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely check out Evan Dott as well. He's another LaValle guy. He's on our He just joined our family this last week, so that's pretty sweet. We got a few more snowcross racers joining in, and we got even a private race team, BG Motorsports.
Okay.
So I mean that's where I'm hitting it up at right now, is trying to get into the snowcross more and the trail riding more. I mean, we added a few more trail riders. I got this guy who's an abdomen, Mike Hand. He's a cool dude. I've been talking with him for quite a while, back and forth on Facebook, whether he even knew it was me or not. But I mean, it's pretty much everybody. I mean, I really just look up to everybody. You don't need to be a big name guy or gal. It's just, what do you do for a living? How do you do it? Do you work 20 hours a week and ride for 40 hours a week? Do you ride for 60 hours a week? Do you work for 5 hours a week, or do you work 40 hours a week and ride?
Right.
It's everybody, and everybody is pretty much an inspiration. It's just really the way, do I really want to think about it today or tomorrow or whatever.
Oh, that's good stuff. So what would you say is next for you, man? I mean, you said you're getting into the snowcross stuff a little bit more, and I mean, is that the next 1 year vision, or do you have other things that you're planning on doing?
I have a ton of stuff planned, actually. I mean, I gotta put the ball down and just start rolling it, but
Yeah.
pretty much is expand into the snowcross more, watercross, trail riding. I mean, we got tons of boondockers and mountain riders and freestyle riders. All those guys in Sweden rip it up. I mean, they're on our team and family. It's just really hard for me to pronounce their names.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not even going to attempt because that's just going to be embarrassing on my part. But I mean, they're all just great, and I'm just really wanting to expand everything much more, have a lot more apparel, start getting some hats, decals. We're getting a signature lineup from M7 Designs that is getting worked on this week, actually. I got a new logo that I've been getting help with, and I mean, it looks sweet. It's nothing like anything you've really seen before. I mean, when I saw it and did a little bit of edits to it, it's just like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. I'm gonna need to make that into a t-shirt.
This one's not released yet, the one you're talking about?
Yep, this one's not released yet.
Oh, I'm excited. Yep. When's it coming out, man?
The logo?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know yet. When I feel like it.
Okay.
I mean, it's done, but I mean, I gotta get some stuff in order first and get some stuff ordered, and then you'll see it. And I mean, I'll probably give you a little sneak peek because I mean, you're a pretty cool dude, but everybody else is gonna have to wait and check it on out later.
Cool. Yeah. Well, depending on when people are listening to this, it might be out. So quick.
Oh, yeah.
If you're driving, it might be. Yeah, if you're driving right now, listen to us. Pull off now into a safe spot, and then just check, see if it's available now.
Exactly. You'll be like, "Wow, that's awesome! I'm gonna need to talk to him. He's so cool. He can make a cool logo." I just kidding.
Well, cool, man. Hey, we're actually at the finish line. We're gonna kind of wrap it up now. So, I mean, if there was one thing that you wanted the audience to take away from this podcast, what would it be?
Basically, be yourself. Don't be fake. Family always comes first. I mean, you got your riding buddies. You can tease around about, oh, you ride this sled or you ride that sled, but let's be serious. If somebody's down on the trail or the sled's burning up, you better stop and help them.
Yep.
I mean, we all just got to be intertwined. I mean, I get on Facebook and people are talking crap about people even just selling parts. I saw that earlier today. They're complaining about his prices for brand new parts that are on an 18, and the shocks haven't even came out on the Polaris website yet. So I'm kind of like, you guys really need to eat your cereal or something for breakfast.
Yeah. It's something else.
It's just got to be nice. I mean, even with doing like asking about sponsorship proposals, or you just be yourself. I mean, best way to get into contact with sponsors is give them a call. Don't send them an email. They're not going to respond most of the time. I mean, I'll respond to pretty much all my emails I can, but most of bigger companies aren't going to respond to your emails, to be honest. So you're going to need to actually get yourself out there, go to shows, talk to them in person, give them a call. I mean, I've sent several emails from when I was at Heyday Store. I met up with so many companies. I have only had one response. So, and that was 2 months ago.
Right.
Yeah, it was a month ago.
Yeah, good advice. We've definitely heard that before, and as we're noticing a theme. I mean, after doing 40 plus episodes of this thing, there's definitely a theme there around be yourself. So, thanks for hitting that one home. So, what's the best way that we connect with you?
Facebook, Instagram. You can always just send me a text. My phone number is literally right on the Instagram page or on our website. There's also a contact tab on our website if you have a question about the website or question about becoming a sponsored rider, there's this tab in Learn More. That's where you're gonna. I mean, if most of the kids who submit that, they're like, "What do I put in for the sponsorship?" Or they spell sponsorship wrong. It's kind of just like I most of the time I don't even respond if they're not going to take the time to spell correctly. I mean, obviously I'm going to check for their region to see where they're from because that's going to play a part of the spelling corrections and all that stuff. But I mean, I don't know. It's just, yeah.
I wrote a blog post about that as well. It was like 6 things to avoid for sponsorship, something like that. And one of them I put, spell sponsor right. Just start with that. If you can get that one down, then move on to the rest of your proposal.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much my number one tip.
Yeah. Or use a different word. Partner. Partner is a good one. It's a little bit easier to spell. Yeah, you can give that one a shot. Well, cool. Well, hey, thanks for taking the time to chat with us and sharing some of your tactics and strategies around building social media and sponsorship stuff. So at this point, I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. Now, we've got Matt Allred of Garage Built Racing on the very next episode. Following that, our first ever return guest and my good friend Jim Beaver. We're going to have episode 50 be featuring him, and then we're going to call that Jim Beaver 2.0. We're going to dive deeper than we have in any of the other episodes and really build on our first recording with him, which was episode 4. Now, beyond that, we have Jeremy Mercier of Skidoo coming on, and then our first ever NHRA top alcohol drag racer, Megan Meyer. Please head over to iTunes, leave a rating review. We very much appreciate that. A special thanks for this episode goes out to our sponsors, SolderWeld, Bold Racing and Suspension, and of course, TopThePodium.com. Make sure that you're following us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And then really the last thing I want to talk to you about is Impact Fuel. It's an online community aimed at turning your riding experiences into sponsor-funded charitable donations. By simply posting your mileage or podium on social media and tagging or mentioning Impact Fuel, you're creating a financial donation for Impact Fuel's feature charity for that month. And you don't even have to give any money. All of the money comes from either the sponsor or Impact Fuel. It's all facilitated there. There's no transaction of money between you and the charity. We take care of all that. All you need to do is go out there, ride, give, and repeat. To find out more, visit impactfuel.org or check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Until next time, have fun and ride safe.